In the year 1843, a man was born by the name of Russell Herman Conwell. Now, Conwell had many professions throughout his lifetime. He was an American Baptist minister, an orator, a philanthropist, lawyer, and writer, a newspaperman at one point. At one point, Conwell was approached by a group of poor but very deserving students about teaching them classes of higher education. In other words, beyond high school. Well, Conwell told the students that it was certainly something they were deserving of. It was certainly a worthy goal that they'd be educated further, but he didn't feel he was up to the task. Finally, after their persistence, Conwell gave in and began teaching these students higher education classes. As the group of students grew, they outgrew their facilities many times. And under pressure, needing larger facilities and so forth, Conwell decided to raise funds to increase the size of the building in order that these students may be educated. His idea, he would tour the country and lecture and raise money for this worthy cause. At every stop, Conwell related the same true story about an African farmer. As the story goes, the African farmer heard about these huge diamonds that were being discovered throughout the entire continent of Africa. He became so obsessed with the idea of finding these diamonds that he sold his farm, the one that he owned free and clear, and he went off in search of these treasures that brought such high prices on the world market. After many years of not finding those diamonds, the African farmer became depressed, threw himself into a river, and drowned. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, so to speak, the new owner of this farm was crossing a shallow stream, and he saw a flash of light. He stopped and picked up the interesting, curious stone, brought it home, and put it on his mantelpiece. A friend came in later, a visitor came in to visit this particular farmer who now owned this farm that had been sold, if you remember, by the one farmer who went off in search of diamonds throughout the continent of Africa. This visitor picked up this object, hefted it in his hand, and nearly fainted. What this farmer had, what this visitor had in his hand, was one of the largest diamonds ever discovered on the continent of Africa. As the story goes, if the original farmer had done his homework and understood what diamonds look like in the rough, and number two, if he had stopped to, with that knowledge, explore the opportunities right beneath his feet, he would have discovered these diamonds. He would have not gone off in search of these diamonds elsewhere. He wouldn't have grown despondent. He wouldn't have sold his farm. Everything would have ended happily ever after. But he didn't know what diamonds looked like in their rough state. He hadn't explored his opportunities. Now, this story, this true story, affected Conwell's audiences deeply. And Conwell told them the purpose of his lecture, and he said, whatever you feel is appropriate, whatever benefit this story has been to you, whatever value you place on these students, send it to this address in Pennsylvania. And he continued his lecture, his tour on across the country. When Conwell finally returned to Pennsylvania, he found his mailbox stuffed with envelopes with checks and cash totaling several $1 million at that time. Several audiences were so moved that they sent several $1 million, with which Conwell went on to found what is today Temple University. Certainly, Conwell found a need and filled it. And that's today's motivational moment. Thanks for listening.